What's up, folks? Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy, single game $1 million winner, here with some NFL DFS picks and lineup advice for FanDuel and DraftKings for tonight's Showdown single game slate between the Seahawks and the Vikings. You know how we do. Quick 10-minute video to try to run through different lineup possibilities and strategies for both low risk and high risk contests, no matter which site you're playing on, FanDuel or DraftKings, using our Occupy model. And of course, our daily plug that will be out later today on OccupyFantasy.com. If you're not already, please subscribe to get our latest videos. And of course, like this video, give it a thumbs up if you appreciate it, and leave a comment below if you have any questions about tonight's slate. So let's get into it, and we'll start with low risk on DraftKings. And quick overview of the betting markets. Seattle, short favorite at home, less than a field goal. The total is 50 points as of the time of this recording, about 9 or 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern time on Monday. So, you know what we like to do? We like to get in both quarterbacks. We like to get in both running backs to try to lock up all the scoring from both teams in the game. So if we try to do that tonight, Russell Wilson likely the highest scorer on the slate, the highest floor at least. So we put Russ Wilson in the captain spot. Now, if we try to get in the remaining guys, so definitely Dalvin Cook, definitely Kirk Cousins. Now the question is Chris Carson versus Rashad Penny. Last week, Chris Carson fumbled for the 8th time this year, and Seattle had enough of it. In the fourth quarter, backup Rashad Penny out-carried and out-touched Carson 8-3 in the fourth quarter. So some people figured that maybe Rashad Penny will take over in this backfield. However, if you listen to reports throughout the week, they talked to offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer. He said Chris Carson is our guy. Going to continue to stick with the running back rotation. We'll see. This is definitely a case in high-risk contest for #chaos where Carson fumbles early and is benched for the rest of the game. However, in low risk, I think we have to go with the assumption that Chris Carson remains with his usual role, which is 15, 20 touches, goal line work, most of the running back opportunities for Seattle. If we try to fit him in, 2,300, that makes it really tough. There really aren't any guys in that price range to fit in. So if we want to keep this core four, what we'd have to do on DraftKings is drop down from Russell Wilson because of the salary multiplier. So we take Wilson out, and let's just say we put him in our flex. And let's say we wanted to put Cousins, the other quarterback, in the captain spot. Doesn't leave us with much. Still $27.50 per player. Not much we can do with that. So what we like to do is get creative on DraftKings in low-risk contests to be able to fit in those 4 high-floor guys in low-risk contests. So let's get Cousins back into the flex spot. Now we have 5K. Now what we can do is we can go with one of the kickers or defenses. None of them rank that highly in our model tonight. However, low-risk contests, they still have a high floor for their price tag. Let's just say we go with Seattle in captain. This is how you get creative. You go with a non-traditional captain in low risk. 5,200 left per player. We can put in a kicker now. And I think, looking at tonight's slate, we'll probably have to leave some salary over on DraftKings for low risk regardless. So this is one option. The other option is removing Chris Carson from the mix and putting in a receiver. So let's say we put Russ Wilson back in the captain spot. Now we have 4,600 left per player. And let's get Seattle's defense in there. 6K. We can go Rashad Penny if somehow we get news, or if you really feel that Rashad Penny is the lead back. We don't think that's the case. We would much rather go Carson, or potentially you ignore Carson altogether with a different set of players to use. So a little tricky, but I think we can get there in low risk, especially on DraftKings. Now FanDuel, if you've watched any of our YouTube videos, read any of our daily plugs before, you know that FanDuel is generally a lot tougher for low risk. So if we go over to low risk on FanDuel, these are the 3 guys we have to get in: Wilson, Cousins, Cook. Now 7,500 left per player. With these 3 guys being the highest salary guys on the slate, it's gonna be really tough. So 7,500 per player. Let's go down. Is there anyone that fits? So what you'll probably have to do if you decide to play low risk, you can go Alexander Madison, and absolutely lock up the running back scoring for Minnesota, as he and Dalvin Cook will generally get 100% of the touches out of that backfield. So 6K. That leaves us with 9K, and that can get us a kicker. That can get us Dan Bailey. Not the worst in the world. Really tricky. Other guys we do like in this price range. However, I don't know if they're great for low-risk contests. Olabisi Johnson, Irv Smith, Josh Gordon, still not playing a ton of snaps, 34% last week. So really tough situation on FanDuel. We would probably limit our low-risk allocation unless we get some news before lock that changes some player values. All right, now the exciting part of single game, high-risk contests, satellites, GPPs, leagues, multipliers, where you can really make your money and differentiate. So with a game total of 50, what we generally like to do, let's go back to DraftKings, is put a pass catcher in our captain spot and MVP spot on FanDuel. When the total gets above 47, it's more likely for a wide receiver or tight end to be the optimal captain. They are the most frequent optimal captains when the totals are that high. Anytime it's below 47, we get more running backs and some defenses in there. Quarterbacks are mixed in, but based on their ownership and their likelihood of being the highest scorer or the optimal captain, the difference between what actually happens and what the ownership is way off, and it's why we generally don't recommend quarterbacks in the captain spot in high-risk contests. So for this game, high-risk receivers, pass catchers, who do we like? DraftKings makes it really nice because of the salary multiplier, and it allows you to fit in guys who won't necessarily be the highest scorer, but putting them in the captain spot can get the highest producing lineup. So guys we obviously like right off the bat, Stephon Diggs, Tyler Lockett, two number one receivers for Minnesota and Seattle. Note, however, Adam Thielen is out tonight. He was ruled out yesterday afternoon, missing his fourth straight game with the hamstring injury, fourth full game. He came back for a couple plays a couple weeks ago and was immediately left the contest. But he's out. Stephon Diggs' role doesn't actually change that much with Thielen out. In fact, it's the secondary players that get the biggest bump. So if we look down, the biggest guys that get the bumps are Kyle Rudolph, tight end, Irv Smith Jr., also a tight end, and Olabisi Johnson, their number 2 receiver. So let's take a look at some statistics for these guys with Thielen out of the lineup. So before Thielen was hurt, Kyle Rudolph was getting 2% of the air yards, 7% of the team's targets. Irv Smith was getting 5% of the air yards, 7% of the targets. Now without Thielen, their roles have doubled or tripled. Rudolph is up to 15% targets, 15% air yards. Irv Smith up to 11% air yards, 15% targets. And then Olabisi Johnson actually leads the team, tied with Rudolph, with 7 red zone targets since Thielen has been out of the lineup. With Thielen in the lineup, Olabisi was playing sparingly, got 8% of the air yards, 10% of the targets. Now without Thielen, 24% of the air yards, 15% of the targets. He's incredibly cheap. And little secret, Olabisi Johnson is on our underperforming receiver list. Guys that have seen a lot of opportunity but haven't converted yet, which generally lead to bigger scores. I won 2 seats to the FanDuel Live Final, the World Championship of Fantasy Football, yesterday, and 3 underperforming wide receivers were in my winning lineup. So my other big $100,000 score on FanDuel this year featured 3 guys on the underperforming list. So this list features guys with huge upside, and Olabisi Johnson is one of those guys tonight. The other guy that is on that list, Mr. DK Metcalf. Over the last 3 games, has more targets and air yards than Tyler Lockett, but has just 1 touchdown. And I think this is true. I think Metcalf still leads the league in end zone targets. So huge upside for Metcalf. His opportunity indicates that he should have had a lot more production than his 6.5 points against Philly last week, his 12 points against San Francisco 3 weeks ago. So I know he had the 30-point outbreak against Tampa Bay, and that's the kind of upside we're looking for, and the kind of upside he has tonight against Minnesota, given his recent opportunity. So Diggs, Lockett, Metcalf, Olabisi, the 2 Vikings tight ends. Now, on FanDuel, where we don't have the salary multiplier, we're likely going to just stick with Diggs, Lockett, Metcalf. Not sure if Rudolph or Olabisi or Irv Smith can be the highest score, which is what you need on FanDuel. So you might want to leave those guys out. The other guy you'll want to consider here is, of course, Dalvin Cook, especially on FanDuel with his massive touchdown upside. He's the highest ranking player in our model for tonight, even given the fact that the total was 50 points. So he's probably someone you want to include, especially on FanDuel with the half-point PPR scoring. All right, that'll do it for today. For in-depth and complete thoughts about tonight's slate, check out the Daily Plug on OccupyFantasy.com, the Monday single game edition that I write. Should be out by 2 p.m. Eastern. Members access only. Membership is as low as $2 a week, so OccupyFantasy.com. Be sure to check that out. We talk about every single player on the slate, and then talk about specifically how to play your lineups in both low-risk and high-risk contests, and then specific contests to target based on all of this information for tonight's slate. The Occupy model is up and running now. Ranks every player on the slate for both FanDuel and DraftKings, OccupyFantasy.com. All right, again, if you're not subscribed already, please do us a favor and do that. Click that red subscribe button below. That way you'll be notified anytime our latest videos come out. Doing these videos a couple times a week. We're posting our live Twitch stream replays on here, posting our 2 weekly podcasts on here, and then any NHL videos we can get throughout the week will be posted here as well. Give us a thumbs up if you like what we did. And if you have any comments about how to improve this video, or if you have questions about tonight's slate, any questions at all, post a comment below. I'll make sure to personally jump back in here and answer them before the slate locks at 8:20 tonight. So follow us on Twitter at OccupyFantasy. Follow me at Brian Jester FF. We appreciate you listening. Good luck tonight, and we'll talk to you soon.